Hi, Michael. It's very good to have you here. Thank you for joining. And what you have a really interesting projects, and I have not heard about what you're doing from anybody else, or from reading in the industry. So can you please share a few words about company or not company and the name and what you're doing?
Sure, absolutely. And first, thank you, Natalia, for talking to us about this, and we're happy to update you and everybody and your viewers. So Verus actually isn't a company. We are a community. The project, the Verus project, was started a little over 4 years ago, and it was started without investors, no initial coin offering or ICO, really in the spirit of Bitcoin. And we just announced to the world that this protocol was going to be live, and we enabled it. We gave 15 minutes notice, and as soon as the protocol went live, we had the first coin mined by someone, because we had thousands of computers immediately mining and staking the network. So we've got a large worldwide community. It's been growing for 4 years. And what we're doing that I think is very different from a lot of the other projects is we're focused on what we call public blockchains as a service. So we do have decentralized finance. In fact, we have, as far as I know, the only fully decentralized liquidity baskets that anyone can define. And public blockchains as a service enables anyone, whether a company or a person or an organization or government, to launch a blockchain themselves without having to program from the network. And that new blockchain immediately is connected in a provable way to the other blockchains, to any other blockchain or system that might be connected to the other blockchains, because the entire network of public blockchains as a service is effectively an infinitely scalable, completely decentralized, multi-blockchain and system network.
It's very interesting. So what would you say, what problems are you trying or solving or will be solving?
So if you think about the challenges right now in blockchain, so Bitcoin showed that we could in fact have decentralized networks that are not necessarily run by a company or a government, but they're accurate and they're secure. And so what we're doing that's very different, if you're familiar with how many transactions today's blockchains can actually process, it's actually a very low number. So you look at Bitcoin, maybe the blockchain right now processes maybe 4-5 transactions per second. You look at Ethereum, and although they're working on doing things off chain and then putting them onto the chain, and so they're getting, more transactions per second that way, the core chain still is processing right around, 20 to 23 transactions per second, something like that, theoretically. Each individual chain, so Verus is what we call a public blockchain as a service. It's a public blockchain, and it processes somewhere near more like 150 transactions per second. But there's an unlimited number of blockchains that all interoperate in the overall network. So getting to like 100,000 transactions per second, not really a problem. So we solve scale. We're not trying to solve it. We really solve it. And then another thing, if you've heard about this saying in blockchain, not your keys, not your coins. That's really important, because blockchain gives people an ability to have self-sovereign control over their funds and their blockchain assets. But if you have that control and you lose your private keys, no one in the world can help you get your funds back. They're gone forever. So Verus is the only protocol that I'm aware of that has revocable, recoverable, and provable identities at the lowest level of the blockchain protocol. And so what that means is I can have an identity, Mike, for example, that is my blockchain address. So I don't need to give somebody a very complex, big string of numbers and letters to send funds to send to Mike, right? And I can revoke and recover any funds that are held by Mike if I happen to lose my private keys for Mike. So the idea that you actually have the level of security that allows you to do things like theft-proof workflows or inheritance, these are now things you can do in a decentralized way. You don't need a bank, you don't need a company. And then finally, we've all heard about, $10 million lost yesterday, or, $100 million the day before, or $500 million, on DeFi, where you've got often a group of people who are really controlling the funds, and maybe somebody gets access to enough keys to be able to actually drain the funds, or maybe there's an exit scam, or maybe a hacker finds problems in a contract, these kinds of things. What we do is actually quite different. So the entire network validates all of the DeFi on the Verus network. There is no multi-sig controlling a contract. And so on decentralized, we do support centralized currencies, but we mostly are focused on the decentralized side. On decentralized currencies and decentralized liquidity baskets, people can't drain the funds. There's just not a multi-sig in control. And when you're sending from one blockchain to another, in many protocols today, what's really happening is there's a group of people saying, yep, those transactions can be correct on the other chain, and then they just are. There's like no proving, no cryptographic proving aside from that those people agreed, right? And so what Verus does that's actually very different in that respect is our cross-chain protocols, whether it's to Ethereum and back, or to another public blockchain as a service and back, those are provable, cryptographically provable based on technologies referred to as Merkle mountain range technologies, or in the case of Ethereum, they call it a Patricia tree, but provable. So a lot of the challenges that we're seeing in blockchain today and in DeFi today are things that a few years back we wrote about and we worked to design protocols to solve. And back then we got blank stares when we would tell people about, this is really going to be a problem. And now everybody's seeing those problems, and we've just been working, 7 days a week since then, just building it. And we're really excited because now it's time to have those technologies go live on the Verus network in very short order, like month, 2 months. Mainnet, those technologies will go live.
For order to identify, who that Mike, which is Mike from other sides, how deep you go in your KYC process? Just maybe
when I said that you can try all these things on testnet, they all work. So everything that I've just described, it's actually a public testnet, a worldwide public testnet, they all work. So I'm just going to leave that for the end of the last question. So how deep do we go on a KYC process? Perfect question for us, because KYC is not what we do. Companies who use the Verus protocol can do KYC and AML all day long. They can gate their offerings on provable attestation. So Mike, for example, an identity that would be, say, a large, trusted company, could be, say, Fidelity, or say, we have a company that's actually working on this kind of KYC approach. Archetype Value is the name. They can attest that Mike is KYC'd, and they can even provide access to that information for anyone who needs it. But I can then use the Mike ID, and without necessarily having to even tell people who I am exactly, they can know that that identity is KYC'd by that trusted company, and that that information is available if needed, through that company. And so we actually, as a protocol, we're about the math. We're about the people. Yeah. We do this really for the people. We had no investor, no VC, no ICO. When we started, it was really about an open protocol in the spirit of Bitcoin, really for everyone. So we can be used for every aspect of KYC, identity proofs, all of these kinds of things. But the protocol itself, that's not really where it is.
How about your governance? I mean, what's your governance protocol? Do you have governance tokens, or how do you address that subject?
So it's really interesting, because if you think about if you make a project that's a DAO, for example, then you say, okay, we're going to have this part of the project and we're going to have a governance token. Okay. We're really a blockchain. So Verus is a coin that is part of the security model, just like Bitcoin is part of the security model of the Bitcoin blockchain. Verus is part of the security model of the Verus blockchain. We do have voting supported in the protocol. And if we have disagreements on how to move forward in the community, we can certainly have votes, but the governance coin is in fact not a governance token. It would be Verus, the actual coin. And so identities, on the other hand, on the Verus protocol can launch currencies, can launch blockchains, and each of those could in fact represent a DAO, a company, a government, a person. And so in that case, I would say most likely the particular project that might create a currency, the particular project that might create another blockchain would define their own governance protocol. Because although we are really an infinitely scalable network of blockchains, we don't extract any tax or rent for any of the other blockchains or currencies running on the network. And we don't actually define how they determine that they want to do their governance.
So, of course, like we all know, it's all about the community, especially when it comes to the crypto space. It's all about word of mouth, the reputation, your channels, Discord, Telegram. So just curious how you have been able to address such an amazing community before even launching. So within 15 minutes of launching, you already had several thousand computers around the world mining. So how you possibly got to that point where you can actually be able to do that? I'm very curious.
You're bringing the memories back, because here's actually how that happened. So when we launched, we didn't have a community, actually. We actually launched the protocol and we made a few assumptions, because remember, we had no ICO, we had no VC saying, okay, here's, $100 million, get started. We really just created the protocol, 50% proof of work, 50% proof of stake. We're not going to switch. We're not going to take a proof of work coin and then turn it into proof of stake, or any of this. It basically was the decentralized rules of the blockchain when we released. No coins mined yet. And we didn't even know when we launched the protocol, we didn't know that thousands of people would be mining. In fact, part of our plan was do everything correctly, tell everybody ahead of time, but they probably won't believe us, even though we believe ourselves, right? And so if they don't believe us, that's okay, because then we'll be mining and staking, and we'll be donating a lot of that early mining and staking to a foundation to help support the project. So what happened is we announce, and it was, for me at the time, I was actually theoretically on vacation, and it was kind of near the end of my vacation, and actually I didn't really take a whole lot of vacation. And so in Hawaii, midnight, we launch, 15 minutes. Oh my gosh, we've got thousands of computers on the network, mining and staking, and we need to fire up some more computers to mine and stake to have enough to donate, and we were doing that as part of this, foundation initiative. And so it was actually a very interesting launch that it's decentralized. We couldn't predict it.
How did it make you feel?
I could give you the well-rehearsed story or all of it, but that's not really where it is. At the time, it's like the best laid plans of mice and men, right? We were ready to go. We had computers to mine, and we honestly just thought that we'd tell everybody what we're doing. We announced on Bitcoin Talk. It's still there for people who want to go back and look at our announcement, And that was May 21st, 2018. Like I said, midnight in Hawaii. And when we launched and we saw the number of miners, and it was expressed in like hash power on the network, it was one of these like, oh, how are we gonna mine enough of those coins to really, because most of the people who would be mining a new project, they're really just trying to get coins that they're probably going to then sell and just make money. Yeah. And our goal was mine the coins so that it would help to bootstrap this project for the people. So it was actually a little bit of a surprise, and it required like some adaptation, and we certainly fired up more computers than we thought we would at the beginning. But, the whole idea and the philosophy and from the beginning was our goal is not to make a company. And our goal is not to make we're relatively not super well known in crypto yet. But our goal was to make a protocol that would have at least as much impact as Bitcoin. And rather than trying to take some majority or even a super large share of what that is, we wanted to release it to the world, benefit from the fact that people don't often believe the truth when they hear it, and earn enough to have enough of a part of this network to be able to help the network itself realize the vision.
What was your vision for 3, 5, and 10 years?
So the reason that I actually kind of went down that path of the community currencies and the fully decentralized DeFi is because I believe that even in 3 years, 5 years, 10 years, I was a technical fellow and a vice president at Microsoft, and we used to work on the 5-year and 10-year plan all the time. And I can tell you, no single 5-year plan and no single 10-year plan or even vision really ended up being exactly what we think it is, but it always has a reflection, yeah? So in 3 years with the Verus protocol, because I believe that the Verus protocol is going to enable completely new use cases. I think the way that people think of websites today, I remember when, the internet was emerging and people said every company is going to have a website one day, and so many companies were like, no, not us, and there were a lot of skeptics around there, right? Now we all know the answer, right? I actually believe that because these currencies that can be created are fully decentralized and they're not actually controlled by any party or individual, I think these are perfect for community currencies, loyalty currencies. They are baskets of real value of existing currencies, but they are also their own currency. And I believe that in 3 years, every company is either going to have a currency that they use as a loyalty currency, or they're going to need to, and they're going to be chasing that. And we provide a way for companies to do that without programming. It's quite easy. In fact, stop by the booth and people would light up currencies, in just a few minutes for people. In 5 years, I think it's going to be extremely challenging for any centralized exchange. Sorry to say that, but I think it's true. To earn money on the exchange of currencies. And the only way I think, because on Verus, you can send as easily as you can send on the blockchain, you can send from one currency to another through a liquidity basket. And it really is simple. It takes minutes worldwide. Send it around the world and convert it from euros to dollars, or send it around the world and convert it from, Ethereum to Bitcoin. I believe that the centralized exchanges in, say, 5 years, they're going to have to add significant value, or there's going to be significant consolidation and kind of shakeout. And I think it's because people aren't really, a lot of people right now aren't yet aware that even what we're doing with this decentralized protocol is possible. So I think just thinking about the vision, I think our original vision paper, which we wrote 4 years ago and released, we've now built every technology that we describe in that paper, and it's all running live. Some of it's on mainnet, some of it is on the testnet going to mainnet. And we talked about voting. We talked about if you create a poll on the chain, you could in fact incentivize people to respond. But we also, one thing I didn't mention, we support zero knowledge privacy. So we support zero knowledge proofs, and we support the ability for people to, for example, vote without disclose. They can vote in a way that we call it confidential, verifiable, and transparent. And what that means is they can vote in a way where you can verify that they're authorized to vote, similar to the KYC, right? But they don't have to say which of the authorized people they are voting for which thing. So if you use this technology for voting, everybody has the ability to express the truth without ever having to justify it to anyone, which is in fact one of the reasons why we called the blockchain Verus, which means true in Latin. And so the idea in the vision paper, which is, first you've got the ability for everybody to create identities, to protect their assets on the blockchain, to then use those identities to prove themselves, to prove, that they are KYC'd, if not the information behind that, which they could also prove if they chose, to, prove things like their age without proving their name. You can actually prove parts of the information about an identity without disclosing the rest. And then to launch blockchains, to launch currencies, and the idea that every company would probably want to have their own loyalty currency, I believe that's true. And then kind of going beyond that, what will it change in society? And I think this is a tool, and I don't know of others, but this is a tool that will allow any human or group of humans to ask questions of any population broken down by different categories, demographics, any kinds of questions, whether those be actual elections or polls, or it's companies looking for information about how they're going to build and launch things. So that's, I'm actually going to pass, if it's all right with you, on the 10-year, not because I don't have ideas, but because I think that I have been accused of having vision at times. But I really don't believe that I can clearly see much further than about 5 years. And that's just my inability.
So now that you're, obviously a lot more established than during the time you launched, for the viewers who would like to become a part of it, who would like to maybe join a community, are there different tiers of membership? I don't know how you call it. Maybe it's not a membership. And what are the ways to, get your token, or you can buy it, you can earn it? Can you just go more in detail about, what is the best way and what are the options to join your community, and what the contributor is look like to you?
We have a completely open community, meaning if somebody wants to join the community, they can go to verus.io, verus.io/Discord. We do a lot of our community work on Discord. Yes, there are Verus Telegram channels. There's a Verus Facebook. There's Verus Twitter. We have pretty much, presence in all of the different social networks, but we've got well over 10,000, and I don't know really the actual number on the Discord, and it's active, super active, every day, all day long, 24 hours, because we got people all over the world. And the really well-known core contributors in the community, the one thing in common about every one of them is that they came to the community. When they came, they decided that they would help with this or with that. They learned something about it. And mostly when people come to the community and start to get involved and contribute, they stay. And because we have a lot of things that, they won't find other places. But the really important thing is that I would say everyone who is, we don't really have tiers, we just have people, and everyone who is a core contributor, they just came and contributed their way into that role. Now, the foundation does give bounties and recognize contributions, and people have done very well, earning from their contributions. Typically, now there are certain kinds of roles, like if we're really in need of more development resources and someone comes along and really can help, then they can come and figure out a way to earn. But typically people come, they'll contribute, and we'll recognize that contribution. And we don't have to owe them. The foundation doesn't have to owe them to give them a bounty, because the philosophy is if somebody contributes and it's helpful, that's what matters. Yeah. And so we try to, after the fact even, recognize contribution and reward it. One last thing, there are some people who they come and they'll contribute, and for one reason or another, they just won't take bounties. They're just, actually most, I think right now, all of the founders right now are probably volunteers. Like I've been a volunteer for quite some time, and just, it's something we believe in, something we love doing. And so it's not really tiers, it's just people, and the community's open, and I think Discord's probably the best way to get in. Just say hi, people will welcome new people usually.
What's your vision for 3, 5, 10 years?
Yeah. So the Verus network enables some things that people have talked about, but nobody's really cracked yet, I'd say, except for this protocol really does do these things. And one, as an example, and we've got a couple articles that a community member has started to write about these. And these are loyalty currencies, community currencies. So if you think about the fact that a DeFi liquidity basket on Verus is not controlled by a small group of people. So any person can launch a basket currency that might have, say, USDC, Ethereum, Bitcoin, and Verus, say, as its reserves, 100% backed, all on chain, and that currency is simply a basket of those currencies. Say 25% of each for its value. The people who launch that currency, they can't take the funds out. They'd have no way to do that because it's part of the actual blockchain protocol that works. And people talk about miner extracted value. It's a very big problem today in DeFi. And on Verus, the way that the protocol works is if you've got, say, 10 people sending through a liquidity basket from dollars to euros, 10 people sending from euros to dollars, a bunch of people sending from, say, Bitcoin to dollars, other people sending from dollars to Verus, and any combination in between. In a single block, all of the transactions in all directions in a basket are solved simultaneously, and every single transaction across all currencies in all directions get exactly the same price with no spread. So in a single block, there's no MEV, miner extracted value. And so what that means is there's always a price that is better than the rest of the market in one direction or another, always. And the fees are part of the protocol. They're built into the protocol. So to send through a liquidity basket, it's a 0.05% fee. Half of those fees end up going to the people holding the liquidity basket currency as yield relative to the underlying basket. And then the other half actually just go to miners and stakers, all the people running, and that's something I didn't mention about the mine. This is the last question you said, but if I can. Of course. Okay. So the other half go to the miners and stakers. There is no company and there is no organization, and even developers, no one else takes a cut. There just is no rent in the system being taken by a party because the system is run by the people. Now, it is possible for companies to start blockchains that then they might control, and that you might think of that as more of a centralized blockchain. But the really interesting thing is, even if a company or an organization does that, they have the same ability to send currencies from Ethereum to their blockchain, or from their blockchain all the way through Verus to Ethereum. And so I'm just going to, if it's all right, I'll just take one moment. Yeah, thank you. So mining and staking. So we started 50% proof of work, 50% proof of stake from the very first coin ever emitted on the network. In this new upgrade with public blockchains as a service, we have so we still have 50% proof of work, 50% proof of stake. But the proof of work is made incredibly ecological through a process of a protocol of dynamic merge mining. So if we have thousands of blockchains across the network and someone wants to mine on their PC, which in fact we still can do due to the algorithms that we use, that miner can decide across all of the blockchains on the network to apply their single hash to up to 22 different blockchains at the same time on the network. So if we have 150 transactions per second, and that makes, say, 3,300 transactions per second across 22 blockchains, right? Then every single miner on the network can be powering forward with their mining power, 3,300 transactions per second, and across an unlimited number of blockchains. And there's one really important thing here. People talk about how much does it cost to process a transaction on Bitcoin? How much does it cost to process a transaction on, proof of work Ethereum, right? That's not even a valid question anymore with Verus, because the entire network could run thousands of chains, and every individual can just choose where they put their hash power. Interesting. So it actually decouples, it completely decouples the idea of the power that you use for mining with how many transactions you can run.
Please, so Verus, verus.io. Please check it out. And I believe you said it's verus.io / Discord. Check out the community. I'm for sure going to go check it out after this. And thank you so much for your time, Michael. I really appreciate you.
Thank you. I appreciate you as well. Thank you very much.